Hi, you're listening to a personal story. I was kneeling by the couch, clutching a torn garbage bag that had just split open. My old flannel shirt, a birthday card from 2017, and a charger for a phone I no longer owned were scattered across the floor. I wasn't cleaning or organizing, I was being erased. Thought I'd help declutter, Faye said casually, leaning against the doorframe with a mug in her hand. Not coffee, not tea, wine. It was 2:40 p.m. on a Wednesday. I stayed silent, picking up my belongings, wondering what was worse, that she tossed my things into a trash bag or that I still cared. She sipped her drink and added, "Honestly, Emory, I only like you after a few drinks anyway." That sentence, it wasn't shouted or slurred, she said it as if commenting on the weather, then laughed. Not nervously, not drunkenly, but with conviction. A laugh that cut through every memory I'd been holding on to. I froze, one hand on the charger, while my mind raced back over recent months. How she'd started using words like space and freedom. How dinners became awkward unless others were around. How goodnight kisses disappeared unless I asked, and even then they felt forced. I thought about her late-night texts, silenced phones, showers taken immediately upon coming home instead of before bed, the way my name, Emory, turned bitter in her mouth. And now, this bag, filled only with my things, my shirts, my books, my memories, nothing of hers. I stood up, gripping the edge of the bag. My voice didn't shake, not because I was brave, but because I was numb. "I'm done," I said. She tilted her head. "What?" I repeated, "I'm done. Go pack. You're out." Her smirk vanished instantly. The wine remained suspended at her lips. "What's your problem now?" she asked. "You laughed," I replied quietly. "But I didn't, and I'm tired of being someone you tolerate when you're trapped. That's not love. That's cruelty." She scoffed. "Oh my God, you're so sensitive again." But jokes like that aren't made about people you respect. For the first time in what felt like forever, she had no comeback. Her laughter stopped dead. After I told her to leave, Faye didn't argue, not really. She just stared at me as though I'd interrupted a movie she was enjoying, then walked off barefoot, calm, still clutching her wine. No tears, no shouting, just a shrug. That shrug hit harder than any slap. I slept on the couch that night, not because I was kicked out, but because I couldn't bear lying beside someone who could laugh at me in front of strangers and call it a joke. I stared at the ceiling, replaying all the signs I'd ignored to keep the peace. The next morning, she was gone. No explanation, no farewell, just an empty wardrobe, a bottle left uncapped on the counter, and an unfamiliar stillness hanging in the air, the kind that vibrates in your ears like a silent alarm. I began cleaning. That's what I do when my mind races. Folding clothes, labeling shelves, scrubbing away lint as if it could calm the storm inside me. I decided to wash the sheets, hoping to erase the lingering scent of lavender tangled with deceit. But then, halfway through, I heard a metallic clink in the dryer. Reaching in, I pulled out a necklace, not hers. This one was heavy silver, masculine. A dog tag, though not military issue, engraved with words J+F, trust the fire. My fingers went numb. I turned the tag over and over, staring at it, half expecting it to rewrite itself into something less devastating. But no, J+F, not E+F, not us. My chest tightened. I opened her bottom drawer, the one she always claimed held nothing but old junk. Guilt prickled at me as I rifled through it, but by then I didn't care about being sneaky anymore. All I cared about was uncovering the truth. Inside, I found a crumpled t-shirt too big to be mine, a cologne I'd never owned, and a spare toothbrush still damp from recent use. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, clutching the dog tag, and whispered into the silence, "She's been bringing someone here." My voice sounded foreign, hollow. Anger bubbled up, hot and acidic. I wanted to scream, to shatter something, to let the rage consume me. Instead, all that came out was a bitter laugh. "Of course," I muttered, like some twisted joke I should have seen coming. Because when someone says they only love you after a few drinks, what they're really saying is, "You sober? You real? Too much for me." But someone else fits just fine. Someone who left their necklace behind, someone who slept in my bed, someone who laughed with her while I wasn't around. It wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure, humiliation, being replaced in my own life. So I did the last thing anyone would expect. I picked up my phone and dialed her mother. It wasn't revenge. I didn't want to humiliate Faye or drag her name through the mud. I called because for 3 years her mom had been the only person who made me feel like I mattered. Ruth was blunt, brutally honest sometimes, but she carried a warmth that felt rare among Faye's family. She used to tell me, "You ground her when she's spinning too fast." Maybe I thought she'd help me make sense of this mess. She answered on the second ring. "Emory, everything all right?" Her voice hit me like a wave, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. Nothing was all right. I was sitting there clutching a stranger's necklace, staring at the gaping void in the closet where Faye's things used to be. "I think she's cheating," I blurted. "I found a man's necklace, engraved J+F, trust the fire. Do you know anything about that?" The line went quiet, long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. Then, softly, a sigh. "So you found it, huh?" That sentence, those 5 words, stopped my heart mid-beat. Found it? What did she mean, found it? Panic surged as I realized I hadn't even mentioned the note hidden beneath the pile of clothes, and now I had no choice but to bring it up. It was hidden under the desk drawer, folded neatly like a stolen secret meant for one pair of eyes. It read, "Counting the hours until we can stop pretending. Flames don't stay buried forever." I thought she'd fight back. I braced myself for denial, for twisted words, even shouting. But Ruth, she just sighed. A heavy, tired sigh, like this weight had been growing for months. I'd warned her before. Months ago, I told her this would explode in her face. But Faye, once she strikes a match, she has to watch it burn. My stomach churned. "So you knew?" "I suspected. She changed, stopped coming to family dinners, spoke in riddles, lied with more confidence each time. When she stopped bringing you around, I knew it had spiraled out of control. She wasn't talking like it was gossip. Her voice carried guilt, sadness, like she'd watched a train wreck in slow motion and couldn't stop it." "Who's Jay?" I asked, though I already guessed. She hesitated again. "You won't like it." "Tell me anyway." "It's Jonah." That name, that cursed name. Jonah, her old art school friend. The free spirit she swore was just a friend. The guy who lived in a van, sculpting from scrap metal. The guy she told me not to worry about because, she said, he's not the type to settle. I laughed, but it wasn't real. It cracked halfway through. "Jonah," I repeated. "Of course it's Jonah." Then Ruth said something I'll never forget. He made her feel alive, reckless. You made her feel secure, but she stopped wanting safe a long time ago. I'm sorry, Emory, you didn't deserve this. I hung up, not because I was mad, but because I understood. I'd fallen in love with a version of Faye that no longer existed. The version that wanted roots, loyalty, a future. She'd buried that part of herself, maybe the day she started hiding another man's things in our home. But I hadn't buried mine, not yet. I should have stopped digging then. Really, I should have. But when someone burns your whole world down, you don't just sit there and watch. You want to know how many matches they lit. After that call with Ruth, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen, staring at Jonah's note, reading it over and over until the words dissolved into noise. Trust the fire. What did that even mean? That it was okay to destroy me as long as they burned together? By morning, I was staring at Faye's laptop. It sat on the dining table like a challenge. She'd always been careless with it, no password. I used to think it was trust. Now I wonder if she just didn't think I'd look. I opened it. I didn't expect to find much, but she'd left her browser tabs open. A travel site, one-way flights to Santa Fe. A Pinterest board titled Tiny Desert Wedding. But the worst was in her email, a folder labeled Art School Files. Inside, I found chat transcripts, hundreds of them, all with Jonah, spanning over a year. I opened the latest one, and the first line hit me like a freight train. Jonah, did he cry again? God, he's so fragile. Faye, you'd cry too if your wife only wanted you after a glass of wine. He has no idea how often you've been in our bed. Jonah, remind me to thank him for keeping it warm. My hands trembled as I scrolled. I should have stopped, but I couldn't. Each message felt like another betrayal. She had shared my secrets, my fears, my vulnerabilities, things I'd whispered only to her. She twisted my emotions into jokes, my breakdowns into entertainment. Faye folded my laundry last night, even matched the socks. I almost laughed in his face. Jonah, he's like the perfect houseplant. That line stuck with me. A houseplant, something you water occasionally and neglect the rest of the time. I don't know how long I sat there staring. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just felt this heavy, hollow sadness, the kind that clogs your lungs and makes breathing feel impossible. I had worked so hard to be enough for her, to keep the house peaceful, the bills paid, the love steady. But she didn't just leave. She mocked my loyalty, parading it like a costume she could shed at will. And then I realized the worst part. Jonah didn't even love her. He was amused by her, entertained by her like a child with a shiny new toy. He called her reckless candy, sweet until it melted. They weren't in love. They were bored. And I was their show. That realization shattered something inside me more than any affair ever could. Betrayal hurts, but being laughed at, dismissed as a joke, eats away at you from the inside. After reading those messages, I closed her laptop and sat in the dark until the room spun. Was it exhaustion or shame? Maybe both. I wanted to disappear, to let her have whatever chaos she craved. But the humiliation wasn't over. That morning, an invitation arrived. It was small, off-white, slipped into our mailbox. Handwritten, no return address. A wedding invitation. At first, I thought it was a sick joke, but when I opened it, I saw Jonah's name printed boldly next to someone else's. Clarity? Clarity? What kind of name is that? The invitation announced their wedding in 3 weeks. But that wasn't what made my knees buckle. It was the note scrawled on the back in Faye's handwriting. Going to be wild. Don't miss it. Smile. I blinked, read it again and again. My palms grew sweaty, my breath shallow. Why would she invite me? To watch me break? To prove Jonah never chose her? I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted, "What the hell is this?" No reply. An hour later, an unknown number called. It was Clarity. She sounded so cheerful, like someone who could charm telemarketers with a smile. "Hi, you must be Emory," she said. "Jonah mentioned you might be surprised. I know it's strange, but Faye insisted you come. She said you were family. We'd love to have you." My grip on the phone faltered. She claimed Faye wanted my support for her new chapter, that I was accepting. Accepting? Accepting of what? Being replaced? Deceived? Turned into some cruel joke at a wedding I didn't even know about? I stayed silent, hanging up without a word. But anger wasn't the only thing boiling inside me. Confusion swirled too. What if F.A. wasn't with Jonah at all? What if he had discarded her and she clung to a fantasy? Or worse, what if she was using me as part of some charade? That's when I opened her old planner. Why I kept it, I don't know. Maybe because it smelled like her, or maybe I'm just that pathetic guy who clings to remnants of better times. Tucked between pages labeled Ceramic Studio and Rent Due, I found a receipt. A hotel stay 2 weeks ago, booked under my name. 1 night only. I stared at the total, then at the initials scrawled under the guest signature. C. Harland. Clarity Harland. My mind reeled. Why would Jonah's fiancé book a room under my account? Unless, no, it couldn't be. Unless Faye and Clarity weren't enemies. Unless they were collaborators. I hadn't been officially invited to the dinner party. It was hosted by Clarity's sister, someone I'd never met, but the address matched one from an email F sent weeks ago about attending a gallery event. Classic. I showed up unannounced, wearing a jacket I hadn't touched since our honeymoon. Maybe I wanted to feel like myself again, the version of me who believed my wife loved me. The house buzzed warmly with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft indie music. I walked in like I belonged, invisible yet confident. No one questioned me. And then I saw her. F, standing in the center of the room, wine glass in hand, laughing with Clarity and Jonah. Their closeness hit me hardest. They weren't awkward acquaintances. They were co-conspirators, whispering secrets like old friends. Then I heard Faye's voice cut through the air. "Poor Emory," she laughed, "still thinks I'm hung up on Jonah." "Honestly, I think he loves fixing me more than anything," Jonah snorted. "He fancies himself a husband, bless him." Clarity chimed in. "At least he wasn't a total jerk, just sad." My heart thundered so loudly I feared someone would notice. Frozen behind a bookshelf, I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. Screaming felt useless. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit record. Faye continued, unfazed. "Yeah, I used Jonah. So what? He used me too. We were never meant to last. He was a fleeting dream, and Emory was merely a placeholder. I craved space, a distraction from it all. That's when Clarity crept in, sneering. Who's next? Another heart to break while Emory keeps you afloat? And then Faye said it, words I'll never forget. "No, I'm done using people. I'm starting over. Emory's gone. He just doesn't know it yet." I stumbled out of the house, trembling. Each step felt like walking away from years of deception. They didn't bother hiding it anymore. I was their punchline, a prop in their cruel little act. But this time, I had proof. I didn't confront her that night. No dramatic speeches or storming out. I simply got in my car, drove home, and uploaded the audio to a secure drive. Not for revenge, but to remind myself it was real. She said it, she laughed, and I was finally done being their fool. The next day, I didn't go to work. Ignored calls, emails, everything. Sat at the table staring at the wedding invitation while the recording looped endlessly. Their voices so casual, slicing me apart without realizing I was still alive. I replayed it, not out of anger, but to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. It truly was as bad as it seemed.
I could have sent the file to Clarity or Jonah's family, blown everything up. But I didn't want chaos. I wanted her to feel small. Not because I'm vindictive, but because I wanted her to look in the mirror and see herself as I did. Not the radiant icon she imagined, but the hollow shell she'd become. So I wrote her a letter. Not an emotional tirade, just cold facts. Details too sharp to dismiss over wine. I included a screenshot of their group chat and the USB with the recording, slipping it all into a plain envelope. Then I placed it on the dining table beside her favorite wine glass. The letter began, "Faye, you once said you only liked me after a few drinks. I believed you. Now I understand why. Sober, I see everything. Drunk, I forgave it all." I recounted the necklace, the receipt, the call with her mother, the party she thought I hadn't seen. I described Jonah's expression when Clarity quipped he always chased broken things, and how his gaze landed squarely on her. I ended with the truth she never saw coming. You didn't lose me. You never truly had me. You were too busy chasing people who'd never stay. I was already there, but you never noticed. I left no name, just my wedding ring taped to the final page. Then I packed a duffel bag, leaving behind the TV, coffee machine, even the photo of us in Maine, and I walked away. Let her look and wonder if any of it was real. Before leaving, I glanced around our apartment one last time. The plants she ignored, the pillow she obsessively arranged, the cracked vase she promised to fix but never did. It all felt like her, beautiful on the surface, yet hollow and messy underneath. I didn't leave a new address. I just walked out, locking the door behind me. Quiet revenge, but deafening in its own way. 4 months passed without contact. No texts, no emails asking how I was. I changed my number, moved 2 states away to live with my cousin, and started working at a cozy bookstore. Uneven floors, creaky shelves, and a bell that rang whenever someone entered looking for solace, or answers, they weren't sure which. I wasn't fully healed, but I felt lighter. I stopped apologizing for being soft, loving deeply, folding socks, leaving notes, caring too much. Those weren't flaws, they were gifts she didn't deserve. Then, last week, something unexpected happened. An email landed in my old account. Subject line, "Accidental forward." But I opened it anyway. It was from Faye, meant for Clarity, forwarding words from Jonah. This time, there was no romance, only raw honesty. Your chaos consumes you. You use people until nothing's left. Don't call me again. I stared at the screen, not with anger or triumph, but with an unfamiliar sense of closure. She hadn't replied to my letter or apologized, yet this accidental glimpse into her unraveling said enough. She hadn't won. She wasn't thriving while I rebuilt myself. No, she was still running, still destroying what little she had. Meanwhile, I chose to start over. Not because I needed to escape pain, but because I wanted to grow. That night, I picked up the bookstore's guest journal where visitors sometimes scribbled thoughts or quotes. Being loved for who you are feels better than being chased for who you pretend to be. Signed simply, E. Who will read it next? I don't know, but I hope it finds someone who needs it as much as I once did. What part of this story stays with you? Was it walking away, the quiet aftermath, or finding peace in starting anew? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. And if you've ever left behind someone who didn't deserve you, tell us how you began again. Thanks for joining Emory's journey exclusively here. Until next time, embrace peace.